The club, like, there's like kind of like a visual meta that's changed a lot. And like when I joined, like it was very like everything is neon glowing, shiny, bright, lots of lighting in the club. Whereas the meta today is like super low lighting, like you can barely see in front of you, like lots of screens.
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion, and we're missing a tiny little furball today. He's sleeping after working a long shift. So, thank you for joining us, Metaverse Degen, and we're here joined by our wonderful guest. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Gravekeepr.
Oh, thank you very much for joining us, Gravekeepr. It means quite a lot that you're here. What is it you're known for, and how'd you even get started with everything?
I guess I'm probably most known for DJing in VRChat, or being a general troll on Twitter.
Ah.
Um, I got into VRChat actually through, so the Quest 1 came out, and I've been following VR since like John Carmack showed off that duct taped prototype at QuakeCon.
Mm.
And I was like, this is sick. I want this. But when the Rift came out, I could not afford it. And my computer needed an upgrade too. So I was like, okay, I gotta wait. So I waited through a few different headset releases and whatnot. And it was just like nothing. I was like, I don't have the computer to run like good VR. And the Quest 1 came out. And I was like, could this actually, there's no way a phone can run like good VR. But I picked it up and was like blown away. And like they did a really good job with the very limited processing power that headset had. Didn't actually have any interest in VRChat at the time because I kind of just thought it was just like people fucking around and trolling, and I didn't really understand it.
Mm.
But doing a lot of stuff on the Quest 1. There was Tribe XR posted on the subreddit for the Quest saying, hey, we're beta testing our DJ software on the Quest. Is there anyone who wants to try it? Send us a DM. So I was like, hey, I've been DJing for 10 years, I think, at that point. Like, yeah, I'd love to try it out. So I picked that up, got into that, mixing it on the Quest. And then through that, I got into Tribe's Discord server, and they were doing a lot of stuff on their Twitch channel. So at the time, I was mostly doing like streaming for shoutcast radio stations, which is going to date me to a lot of people right now, and a lot of other people have no idea what I'm talking about. But so I was doing shoutcast radio. So I started playing on their Twitch channel. I finally got my own Twitch channel set up and started doing some more DJing on Twitch and stuff. And through that, started meeting some people in the VR community, one of which was Jazzy Senpai, who I believe you have done a interview with before.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have. It was a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah, she's great. I met her through Tribe, and then she ended up running like the video backend for this DJ competition that some this like VR Twitch streamer used. This guy, Seven, I think he goes the face of VR, Seven. So he hosted like a DJ competition that was on Twitch. And I was like, do we have to play in VR? Because the way I had it set up, there wasn't really an easy way to stream from the Quest. And my PC like couldn't handle full VR at the time. So I played in that along with Jazzy Senpai, and someone people may know, Paul Manton. And so through that, I got to know Paul Manton. And Paul, if you are not familiar, is kind of like very well known in the VRDJ scene. At the time, neither of us were in VRChat, but we were all talking to each other through this like DJ competition, and I got to know Paul. We became good friends, and Jazzy as well. And so Jazzy started bringing Paul into VRChat because Jazzy was playing sets for like DDVR and Rizumu, and there was like a bunch of other clubs at the time that I don't know if they're still around. I'm not super familiar with them. But so she was bringing Paul in, and Paul started getting a DDVR, and he's like, "Grave, you gotta come check this out." And I was like, "Okay." So I joined in desktop mode because my PC was not capable of running it in VR, and I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty sick." I went to like first DDVR event. So I started like kind of coming to those, and I was like, "All right, I need PC VR. I need a way to like do this shit on PC." So I upgraded my computer, and I started, at the time, like link cable wasn't yet a thing, but virtual desktop was starting to allow you to run VR. So I was using virtual desktop with the Quest 1, and I started coming to events and stuff. Through that, eventually started like playing some sets at DDVR and Rizumu. We did a few events like back in the day, like drum and bass, which at the time was like kind of my main genre, and I'd say still is one of my main genres. Wasn't super popular in VRChat. There was like a couple other people that played it, but I was like one of the few. So we organized a couple events just around playing drum and bass. Deep dubstep, like 140 stuff, also really wasn't much of that. So we did a couple events with that. And yeah, I mean, it was a much smaller scene then. For me, it was pretty much DDVR and Rizumu. So I stuck around, and then we started seeing new things popping up, like Loner. I think Loner was one of the first more like, I would say, like artist-centric, music-focused clubs. And then after that, you had things like Shelter. So the scene like drastically changed around then, because that was like somewhat early pandemic, and a lot of people were getting into VR. And so we were actually starting to get like a lot more musicians coming in who no longer could play live events, and like VRChat provided an avenue for them to do that. So yeah, and I mean, you know, things progressed steadily from there, and we are now at the I would say thriving club scene that VRChat has, where I have no idea how many clubs or DJs there are. There are too many to count. I can go on like the timeline and find an event, show up, and not have anyone I know in the event, which is pretty awesome, because we came from a relatively small few clubs, and yeah, it's really blown up since then. It's been really cool. I've been seeing like a lot of new talent coming up. I think kind of like back then it was a little harder to get your foot in the door because there was just so few places to play, but now you can just go play a pop-up somewhere, or you can just have your friends like host an instance and just start your own event, which at the time was like not so much of a thing. Like mic DJing was like not the prevalent thing then, but it was still a thing.
Oh, okay. I've got a few questions for you, and I'm gonna do my best to remember them because you said a lot that interested me. But I'll start with, what is a shoutcast? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so Shoutcast is a like internet radio streaming protocol that was like, you ever used Winamp? And you went on the radio on Winamp. That was like primarily Shoutcast. So like I got into this through IRC, Internet Relay Chat. This was before Discord was a thing. So I was learning music production. I was actually in like the EDM production subreddit, and I met someone who actually happened to be in my town, and I joined their IRC, which happened to be associated with this internet radio station. But there's like they're not so much popular now. I think most DJs have actually kind of moved to streaming on like Twitch or Kick or whatever. But at the time, you know, like you would find like a radio station that would be focused on like there's a relatively, I think they're still going pretty well. There's one called sub.fm. They do like deep dubstep stuff, and they've had like a lot of pretty big name DJs play for them.
Wow. Oh, so I have another question for you. What initially got you, since you mentioned your music production, what got you into music production as well as DJing? What was like your first instance into it like?
I tried to get into music production before DJing, but I had no idea how. So we want to go way back. Like I've always been doing music my whole life. Um, I guess like I remember taking piano lessons when I was in elementary school, and it was one of those things where I like just never really put in the time or practice. And then like, you know, played in band, played trombone, shout out boners. And then like in high school played some guitar and did vocals for like a like hardcore emo screamo band. Um and then like continued with that into college, played bass in a band, did vocals. And like in college I wanted to, we were like starting to like record some of our songs, and I was like I want to add some like other like I was like I want to put strings on this track, and I don't know how to do this, so I pirated Cubase and I downloaded a really crappy strings library and like tried to add some layers, and it was garbage. But I like, that was probably what the first time I dipped my toes into production. And then I got more into electronic music after that, and like dance music. So I kept like I was like, I bounced around to a couple different DAWs. I tried Ableton because Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor put out these Ableton projects for Nine Inch Nails stems, and I was like, I'm gonna remix Nine Inch Nails. And then I download Ableton, I have no idea what I'm doing, and can't you know like make any good sound out of it. I messed around with some tutorials for Reason in a bit, and it was, I think it was like 2012 when I was really into like Noisia at the time. Like I think Split the Atom hadn't been out that long, and I was like, this is sick. How do I make sounds like this? And everyone on the internet was, you've got to resample your basses. And I didn't know what that means. And for someone who doesn't know what that means, resampling something in production basically means you just bounce it to audio and then further process it. It's not something you need to get a complex bass sound, but it is a way, or if your computer has relatively limited processing power, you can get like extensive FX chains without bringing your CPU to a halt. But I was like, oh, this is the only way I can get that sick neuro sound. And like I found some random tutorial from this dude Seamless on FL Studio being like resampling using this synthesizer Harmer. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. So that got me started with FL Studio. And I started, FL Studio was the first DAW that I actually made sense to my ADHD brain. So that was the first DAW like I actually finished a track in. Did a lot of tutorials from Seamless that really taught me like the basics of production, because most of the tutorials I'd seen previous to that had been people being like, set this knob to 6 o'clock and do this and set that knob and then it sounds like this. And like, all right, I could copy a sound, but I didn't understand how I was making the sound, and I didn't understand like the concepts. So I have been like kind of working on it since then, and you know, slowly getting better, but didn't really start. I like have had a couple of releases like a long time ago through sort of that shoutcast station I was on, but they didn't really start like putting out music until I would say honestly this year, where I was just like,
Oh, wow.
I need to fucking do this or I'm gonna die. I was like, I don't want to die and like not have released any music. So that is my approaching midlife crisis of, oh my god, I need to put music out either before I'm dead or I go deaf, you know.
Understood. So sounds like you've been up to a whole lot within music. What what about being DJing and doing the music here in VRChat or wherever else you're doing it made you want to release this year specifically?
Um, it's just something that I'd been kind of like pushing myself, putting off for a while.
Hmm.
So I got into DJing near the end of my undergrad in college in probably like 2009, and I like I don't know, I have pretty particular tastes, which is why I think I took to DJing so well, where there is a certain sound that like I like, and there is other stuff that I really don't.
Hmm.
And I just like I've been working on music and like had so many projects for so long that I just wouldn't do anything with, and I found reasons just not to put stuff out. Like I actually have like some approaching mild to like medium hearing loss in my left ear, along with tinnitus that has been inconsistently progressing for the past 5 years or so.
Hmm.
And like when that started happening, like I got pretty depressed and like kind of stopped doing music stuff for a bit and was just like, I should just sell all my gear and like not just like give up on this. But so I went through a few phases of that, and I guess it kind of got to the point. Actually, VRChat honestly really is what pushed me to do it. As like the more I've gotten involved with this and like just taking some tracks that I had made and then playing them out in VR and like people actually liking it, that was like huge motivation for me to actually like finish something and have it be done and put it out there so that people can listen to it.
Okay. So I got another weird question. It's going to be a little layered. Fair warning. I'm really good at multi-layered questions. But
Let's go.
first of the multi-layers is: have you ever done any shows in real life, or has it been strictly virtual? And then from your background of all the music and ways you've played or DJed for people, what is your opinions on DJing in VR, your in VRChat specifically?
Um, I have played IRL. So like way back when I was first starting, like I played some house parties and bars and stuff, and at the time was mostly playing like house music, electro house kind of stuff. Um, and then like kind of a long break after that where I wasn't really playing IRL. We did a few like park parties and stuff with friends, but what really VRChat, like getting into that, I mostly prefer it. And I have now played two IRL events entirely due to VRChat. I played ShelterCon 4 and ShelterCon 5. Both really amazing experiences, and honestly, the support I've gotten from that community is a big part of the reason why I actually have put music out. 2TD has been like a really good friend to me, and like his encouragement in terms of like actually releasing my shit. And like just my DJing in general has really helped me feel a lot better about it.
Hmm.
But also I've like met through VRChat, I've met artists that I've been like fans of for like a long time. Billin, shout out Billin. Billin I got to meet. It's like 2021 or I think like 2021, 2022-ish. And the first time I played Shelter was on a lineup with Bill and Grey Mage and 2TD. And I've been following Billin since like 2012. So like the first time I met him in VRChat, I was like, "Are you the Billin?" And he was like, "Well, it depends who's asking."
Yeah.
But I got to become friends with him. He's been super encouraging for like my music and production, and like incredibly sweet, incredibly amazing artist, and he's helped me a lot. Gyrofield, who's played at, Shelter and Dieselworks. Shout out Dieselworks. She's incredibly sweet, incredibly amazing, talented musician, and she's given me like a feedback and help too. So I don't know if I would have met these people like IRL. So, and personally, IRL has stuff that VR doesn't. Like, don't get me wrong, like there's the comparison between an IRL show and a VR show is they're very different. IRL, like for one, you can really feel the bass, and we can get some facsimiles around that with like woozers and stuff, and they're great and they do a good job. But the audio is just not the same. It doesn't have that whole like full body presence of when you've got a massive sound system that's just shaking you. But in some ways, like because of my hearing loss and like some like OCD I have around getting further hearing loss, I get a little anxious being in really loud environments. So even with hearing protection, I'm not always the most comfortable at IRL shows. And then, plus the drinks are a lot cheaper at home. No one spills drinks on you. I can take off the headset and the bathroom is not disgusting. There's a lot of complaints that I still have about like VR music events in general, and they are actually primarily audio based. I mentioned it before we started. I really hate bad spatialization, and part of that is just due to my hearing loss. Is when I hear something. When that happened, I became hyper aware of panning, and it's like tied to that. Plus, I think somewhat my OCD, where it's just like, if something is panned weird or like feels spatialized weird, it drives me absolutely insane. So if I go to a club and they have some spatialization set up, but it's not done really well, it like ruins the event for me. Like I've gone to events where friends were playing before and asked them to give me the VRCDN stream because I just couldn't handle the world audio because it was just not there. Please, if you're making worlds, give an option for 2D audio if you have some heavy spatialization, especially if you don't have it perfect. I understand, like not wanting to do that to compromise the experience, but if you have a Twitch stream, that works too. But some clubs do it really well. Both Dieselworks and Shelter have absolutely fantastic spatialized audio. I think some of the best in the game. And when it's done right, it works really well. But I'm really hoping like...
Oh, your chat is not responding. Sorry, folks, technical difficulties. Hello, just real quick. I'll only take a few seconds of your time. In the description, that way you have a card, metaversedegen.card.co. We have many links down there for you to come check out. We have an X link, which is with me. We have a Discord where we hang out and do stuff all the time, as well as a Patreon link, where if you wish to support us, you can. Where there's also a show and another podcast separate from Metaverse Degen, which we have available to our wonderful members who signed up, such as Niche, Training Fangs, Aliquum, and Forbidden Zero. Thank you all. You're all amazing. Enjoy the rest of your video. I won't take up any of your time. I'm very sorry. It looked like... I think my computer just decided now's a great time to just stop functioning. And then I lost connection.
Oh, no. Okay.
But
let me know when you're back ready.
I haven't stopped recording, so with that said, you can start whatever, and I'll just, with post-processing, either remove it or just kind of leave the funny as you can hear me go.
We'll make it work. Yeah.
Because it's not the first time that's happened. Because I was doing a show once, or an episode with a really good friend of mine, White Strelitzia, who's like a dancer in VR. And we went to make a joke, and the joke involved me throwing my legs in the air. And so I threw my legs in the air, and that's the exact moment I crashed. And on top of the crash, you see my legs in the area. You hear Raptor and White Strelitzia, those two fucking knuckleheads, making jokes in the background. Yep, pretty much. But I am sorry for that technical difficulty. Yeah, pretty much. I am sorry for the technical difficulty, though.
You're good. You're good. You're good. I actually remember where I was. Right. Spatialized audio. When it's bad, it drives me insane. There are a few clubs that do it really well. Dieselworks and Shelter in particular. Absolutely fantastic spatialized audio, and yeah, I can't wait until we start seeing Steam. Is it Steam VR audio or just Steam audio? I don't know what they're calling it. I saw some previews for that, and it looks like absolutely insane and sounds great. But like bad audio, and some of it is just Unity jank, and some of it is like streaming bitrate crap. But bad audio, like, absolutely kills a set for me. Yeah.
Oh, so I got a bunch of questions from that, from all of that. I'll give you them one at a time. Hopefully, I can remember them all. What was playing ShelterCon like for you, from going from VRChat events to a real life VRChat event with ShelterCon? What was the experience like, and anything you have to take away from it?
Absolutely amazing. First of all, largest sound system I've ever played on, which was, oh, it was sick. Just like feeling the bass of tunes, and I got to play some of my own tunes on a big system, and I've never heard my shit played out. And the fact, like, hearing it and being like, wow, that mix down isn't complete dog shit, and seeing people dancing, I was just like so happy. And just, it was a lot of fun. Super fucking nervous, of course, but like, it was a crowd that was full of like most of my friends, so it was just an amazing experience. And then for 5, I got to do it with Indent. We did a back-to-back. We actually did a back-to-back in the New York ShelterCon at this like arcade called Wonderville in Brooklyn, and that was like a lot of fun. So we did like a breaks back-to-back at ShelterCon 5, and it was awesome. Indent is an amazing DJ, and just like better DJ than I am, honestly. Like, so there's points where Indent does stuff on the mix, and I'm just like, oh shit, yeah, he's really fucking amping it up here. Like he's very active in his mixing, and it makes a difference. I'm very much more like, my DJing style is more, I'm all about getting the transitions like perfectly blended together and like timing the drop right and everything. Indent's very active in terms of like effects and fader throws and whatnot, and it's sick, and it really, and we both have our own like distinct tastes, but close enough that there's overlap, so it like intermeshed to make something that I thought was really amazing, that was like way better and way different than anything I could have done on my own, and just like, yeah, like something like totally different than the two of us on our own, but like combined into something special. So that was really sick. And again, just like crowd full of my friends, absolutely amazing time. Amazing lineups to be on both times too. Like a lot of amazing DJs on it that I'm not even going to try to list them all because I don't want to risk leaving anyone out. But you're all sick and better DJs than me.
Well, first of all, give yourself more credit than that. You get, something I tell a lot of people who are doing art a lot, like such as you or music. A lot of the time, you're a lot better than you give yourself credit for. One of the examples I give of this is H.P. Lovecraft. One of his more well-known stories, Shadow over Innsmouth. He hated it. And it took, when he passed away, one of his family members found it in a drawer underneath everything in the back. And they posted it, and they released it for him, and it became one of his more well-known ones. So just because you may not think it's good does not mean it is good. Give yourself more credit. You've been at it for a while. Give yourself some kudos.
No, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I actually have a good amount of confidence in my own abilities at this point. I just think that there's a lot of amazing DJs in this scene, and it's not, I'm trying to get past the point of, I think every creative person also has somewhat of an ego. I think that ties into actually like the somewhat the self-hating, because you build up the self-story about how you're like, I am this great artist, and then you look at your output and it doesn't necessarily meet your tastes and it doesn't necessarily meet your self-story. And so it's kind of easy to fall in the trap of being like, I don't live up to what this story is, so I'm garbage, or I don't live up to my tastes and the people I respect, so it's garbage. And it's like, no, it's its own thing and it's great. But the scene itself like has some absolutely fantastic talent. Like to the point sometimes where I go out and I'm like, man, these DJs, like some of the DJs IRL, I'm like, I want the VR chat people. Like, you guys are so fucking good. Some people, like, you know, they'll pick it up and within like a year are just playing absolutely banger sets of like totally sick shit that I've never heard before and I know nothing about.
So I have a bit of a fun question, since it sounds like you've played Shelter before in VR and then also the real life. How did it feel for you from playing Shelter in VR versus Shelter Con in real life?
DJing in VR is DJing handicapped because you have a headset on and controllers on, so it's a lot easier. That said, I used Tractor and it was CDJs at ShelterCon, so I still fucked up a little bit, but that's okay. You gotta make a few mistakes. If your set's like, I'd rather hear like a kind of broken set where someone fucks up a bit than like a clean, perfectly mixed set that has like no emotion or feeling into it. But it's yeah, I mean it's the immediacy of IRL is still like a lot better, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's always some degree of latency. Full body tracking as it is now is never, it's not capable of capturing a lot of the fine nuances you can see in person. Like even if someone has like eye tracking, face tracking, they do like all the tracking straps. I don't even know how many you can run in VR. Is it like 11 point now? Something like that.
I think it's 11.
9 point?
11.
We're at
tracking.
11 now. Yeah. But I mean, even with that, there's still like subtle things that it's just like the tracking isn't capable of picking up on. I'm actually hoping we're going to get like a camera-based system like Kinect, but not shit. Because that way we can get like full skeletal tracking without having to track things, strap things to every little bit on you. But yeah, I mean, it's just like IRL's just like there's a lot of details, and then also there's, you know, physical contact and things like that, which you won't get in VR.
Okay.
So I think playing IRL, I actually just find it easier to pay attention to where I am in the crowd. Whereas when I'm DJing in VR, I am more focused on just not fucking up because of all the shit that I have to have on to be in VR and like appear like I'm an active DJ, rather than like doing a desktop mode set.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you another question. It's going to harp back to something you said a little earlier. But you said within VRChat, you're able to meet someone you followed for a while. What was the experience for you like when you first were able to see them or speak with them?
So actually, Billin, I knew people knew him, so I knew he was in VRChat. Like someone was like, "Oh yeah, the homie Billin." I was like, "Wait, you know Billin?" And then like Paul found out I was a fan, and Paul was like, "Oh yeah, Billy, yeah, I know Bill." And so like one time Paul's like, "Hey, Bill's on right now, you should hop in." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I like hopped on and chatted with him. It was just kind of surreal. You know, he's just a dude. I have like a lot of respect for him, and I was just also trying not to be like a fanboy.
Okay.
But it was cool. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to look back on it now that I like kind of know him a little bit better. Like but Bill is such a fucking like good person. It's I haven't met like that many people I would say that I've like been huge fans of before, but like in the case of him and also in the case of like Gyrofield, like both of them are really down to earth, nice, cool people, and that was like really reassuring and nice to see, because it's always like shitty when like you find out like an artist you like is like actually a piece of shit. I haven't personally had the experience of meeting an artist I like and being like, oh, you suck, but you know, it certainly happens quite a lot.
Isn't there a saying like never meet your heroes or something like that based on those lines?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I agree with that anymore because, well, I like meeting people that I've respected as artists in VR has really actually strengthened how I feel about their art and their music. And I feel like knowing some of their personal story, I feel like I have a better understanding of where their music and art is coming from. And that's really cool. And like, if someone is an asshole, I don't know, like how I view someone's art is definitely directly related into like how they are as a person. So if I'm kind of mad on someone's music, but then I meet them and they're just like an absolutely fantastic person, like I will start listening to their music more closely and be like, oh, there's like a lot more depth to this than I gave it credit for. Like I will give it, I don't know if there's like somewhat of a deeper understanding or it's just like you get over kind of like a psychological wall and it's like easier to like let yourself experience it. But yeah, I like, I don't know. I've been really blessed to meet awesome people that both make awesome art and are amazing people. And like some of them there's people I met in VRChat that I've become fans of their work through VRChat and then become their friends, or I've become friends with someone and then discovered they make absolutely amazing work. And both scenarios I think are really, awesome.
Okay. What was some of the first moments of your DJing career here in VR like when you're like first started doing it from coming in? What was those experiences like and how did they make you feel?
To be perfectly honest, when I started playing in VRChat, not a lot of people liked my music. I think the general, in like late 2019, like the general, most of the kind of stuff you would hear in clubs, I'd say was sort of popular EDM, electro house kind of things, and there were some variations on that. Like really heavy dubstep. I think there was a decent amount on that then. But the kind of drum and bass that I play, or the kind of dubstep that I play, which is more like deep sub-bassed minimal, didn't necessarily connect with a lot of people at the time. So I didn't really get booked that much. When I did, I definitely like cleared multiple dance floors because I was not playing like the desired stuff. I did end up coming back at one point and I was just like, I'm gonna play an electro house set, I don't care, because I used to like, I started DJing with electro house, so I pulled out like all like the 2010 2012 like electro house, like early Skrillex, Wolfgang Gartner, Deadmau5 stuff. It was just like, all right, we're playing all this, and it popped off. People fucking loved it. It was fun, and I still actually like love a lot of that stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on it, but it like my taste had changed to something a bit more minimal, vibey, dark, and kind of like sub-bass oriented, and that wasn't the biggest thing at the time. I actually distinctly remembered there was one person who was somewhat prominent in the scene then, who kind of acted like the arbiter of things, who would say stuff like, oh, don't play drum and bass. Nobody can dance to drum and bass. It's too fast. Which, like, they did change the IK. It's better now. It used to be, like, a lot laggier. But the idea that drum and bass is too fast when you look at, like, what people are playing now and like how popular drum and bass is just like kind of hilarious to me.
Okay. I have another interesting question from since you played from pre-COVID and during and after. How much has the club scene in VRChat changed from your perspective through COVID? And how much has the interest and genre in VRChat changed over the course of when you started to where you are now?
Right. Club scene's massively bigger, of course. There's that. So, like I said before, you want to play now, you can find places to play. Like, there's no shortage of clubs out there. Genre variety is huge at this point. If you're into something, there's probably somewhere that is doing it. You might just have to look around a bit to find it. And I do find crowds are actually more open to broader ranges of music now. You go into like some weird esoteric shit, people may not necessarily dance to it, but people generally vibe and like have a good time. The club, like, there's like kind of like a visual meta that's changed a lot, and like when I joined, like it was very like everything is neon glowing, shiny, bright, lots of lighting in the club, whereas the meta today is like super low lighting, like you can barely see in front of you, like lots of screens. VJs were like not a thing at all. Like people, like DDVR and Resumu, the standard was someone would do a Twitch stream, and their Twitch stream would either have a video of them DJing or like a video of the club itself, which would then be broadcast up on the screen behind them of like, so it's like a 30-second delay of what the club was doing 30 seconds ago, or some combination of the two. Like that was like kind of the standard, and I would say like there was a lot more Twitch focus, and that's partially because there was no VRCDN, so everything innately was going to have this latency anyway.
So I have another interesting question. At one point, did virtual VJs and virtual jockeys become more common?
I'd say kind of around the time that Shelter was taking off more. I think like Shelter is a big part of that. Like Kai doing the visuals and the VJing for Shelter really, because they had, you know, the screen in the front, like behind the DJ, and then the ones on the ceiling. And I think that was where people started seeing more of this. I might be wrong. There might be some other, don't shoot me if I'm wrong. Like there might be other clubs that have done some VJing. And I'm sure there were other DJs that were doing like visuals. Like I'm pretty sure I played a DDVR set once where I put up like Winamp with milk drop on it. But I'm not going to call that VJing. There was like definitely some attempts to use more visuals, but I think Shelter really popularized that. Like, yeah.
Okay. So what about the like club atmosphere, like getting into a slot or working with the various communities? Has that changed at all over time?
Yeah, I mean at the time there was a few clubs, so you'd have to get in with certain people and get friendly with the organizers and the host, and you know, try and get a slot. I still remember like trying to like cozy up to some like club people to be like, hey, can I play your club? And I don't really bother with that anymore. And part of that is I think I've been around long enough. I'm at least somewhat a known quantity. But so I can't really speak towards coming into it as a new DJ. I like know that some people still do struggle to get sets and stuff, and I feel like it might be a little harder now to get yourself noticed in terms of the whole club scene, because back then if there's only like 2 or 3 clubs, you know most of the DJs. At that point, like you're going to see them around. But if there is an endless quantity of clubs, then, you know, it might be a lot harder for yourself to get noticed if you want to play, say, a particular club. But I think in some ways the scene has also started to branch off into its own little sections. There was this weird like mid-period where we had this whole like kind of nebulous big scene where it was just kind of this big tent, and we had like sort of, there was a lot more cross-club stuff going on there now. And now I think they've noticed there are certain clubs will work together and other clubs will work together, and they almost have their own like little sub club communities from like the overall VRChatdj communities. So I think it's more now you might focus more on getting in with like one sub community, and that will open you up to related parties within their friend groups.
So how do you feel about that kind of change and kind of, I want to say splintering, but I don't think it's splintering. But that change, how do you feel about it personally?
I think it's great. I mean, it's just part of it is just the, what's the term, like the monkey circle. Like you can only have like, I don't know, there's like only like so many connections the human brain can handle in terms of like people you consider friends, acquaintances, whatever. And it's just too big now for our brains to handle that big monkey circle. So we make our own little circles. And you have some bigger clubs that might be known like throughout the scene, but even they, I would say, have like kind of formed off into their own little friend groups, and that's fine. And I think it's a good thing. It's just, you know, like I don't really care about playing like all the clubs and getting to, you know, be part of every event. So I just kind of focus on my friends, and yeah, how I engaged with VRChat changed a lot too, and that's partially just like personal life stuff, but I think it is somewhat related to this sort of like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's necessarily divided, but there definitely is like different sub-factions. Yeah, and like, so I have like certain groups I spend a lot of time with. I mostly spend my time around like the shelter people and the Dieselworks people. Both like really great communities. I have a lot of friends through both of them. And then there's like other groups that I will sort of hang out with, but you know, you only have so much time in the day, so it's just kind of, I think this just lets people, I think what's nice about this is you can actually choose your friends versus when you have a lot smaller of a community, it's just like, well, I want to DJ in VRChat. These are the people I have to be friends with in order to do that. Versus now you're like, fuck those people. I'm going to hang out with these people instead because these people are more my vibe.
Okay. You mentioned earlier how you interact with VRChat has changed. Would you mind elaborating a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a lot more active, somewhat to the detriment of my own like personal IRL relationship, I would say. So now, and then part of it too is just kind of this like, there's this like DJ treadmill I think you can get on where you just start worrying about like, I've got to get booked, I've got to play all the events, you know, oh, if I'm not showing up to the events, then I'm not going to get booked to play the events. Oh, my friend's DJing this party, I want to support them and I want to see their set. And it's very easy to like fall into this cycle of like, well, I'm on VRChat every night because there's always something going on. This is something that became more apparent during like mid-COVID, where suddenly like the scene was exploding, and I like had to make a choice then. Like I was like, okay, I can't go to every event, I can't see my friends every time they DJ, and I can't play every club or everything. So I am going to focus on like what I really want to do and where it fits into my IRL schedule.
Okay. That makes a whole lot of sense. Scheduling one's life is very important. How much, on average, how many events or sets do you play generally, and what was like the most you've played at one point?
I'd say the most is I was doing one every week, which is certainly not the highest. I know there are multiple people out there who will play multiple sets a night. Right now I'm probably on about once a month, and it kind of ebbs and flows and based on IRL demands and then like based on when bookings come my way.
Mhm.
I don't really seek out being booked that much over like recently because I am trying to focus more on finishing music. I set a goal for myself for this year where I'm trying to release like a track or a bootleg like on average one every month. And so far I'm like mostly on track for that, but with my work and personal life and like working on some art project stuff for Burning Man, I have like a lot of other shit to do. So I don't have as much time for VR as if I had unlimited time, I'd probably be
Oh,
in here a lot more.
don't ever
I think
apologize
that's
for
true
having.
for everyone.
Yeah, don't ever apologize for having a real life. Real life is a little bit more important than what happens in here with pixels. So
I don't necessarily like. I think what happens in here with pixels isn't any less real.
I'm not saying it
I
isn't.
don't.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But I mean, no, I get what you mean. Like, basically, like getting your personal shit together is more important than partying with your friends or like playing games or whatever. Just like in general, like in your life, like if you are hanging out with your friends all the time to the detriment of your personal success, of your personal relationships, then that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I mean, but I do think like the connections in here are absolutely real. Like this, like, and I know a lot of people who spend a lot more time in here than me, and like, I'm not like their connections and their relationships are totally valid, and like for them, this is where they are able to have a community and have friends and be safe. Whereas like I have a partner IRL who doesn't really do VR. Like some people, they live in areas where they haven't been able to form a connection like that, and they've met someone in VR, and that's great.
Okay. So I have another question for you, since you've mentioned you've enjoyed the thought of VR for a very long time. How do you feel how like the technology for VR and social VR has changed from when you first saw like the cardboard cutout versus now?
It's gotten a lot better, but I kind of expected more from the hardware side. I'm a little disappointed we don't have like varifocal lenses yet. Like Oculus showed that tech how many years ago? Was it the Santa Cruz where they had like electronic varifocal lenses? Because I think that, I haven't experienced it, but just having everything at the same focal plane, I think it's going to make a bigger difference than most people realize. I have a big screen beyond. I love it. It's not perfect though. The glare can be an issue in certain places. But Quest 2 for me was like a downgrade from the Quest 1, like having no OLED. Higher resolution, but OLED I think is actually absolutely critical because you really need those popping colors and you need those pitch blacks, because otherwise I feel like it's really apparent you're staring at a screen versus when you actually have like real black. VRChat itself has gotten like a hell of a lot better. It used to be super janky. I still remember when like you go to shelter and just like everyone's voices die for the whole night, which in some ways was kind of a blessing. You're like, all right, well, we can't talk, so we just have to dance. VR chat in general, like it kind of did blow. It still does blow me away in terms of what I get out of it. I didn't really expect that, and that's not why I got VR. I wanted to play games. But this is where 99% of my VR time ends up going.
Okay. So, what in the time you've been in VRChat and in the club scene, how much has the scene and VRChat become to mean to you as a person, and what kinds of things have you picked up or learned from it, for being here?
Oh, how mean have they been to me?
No. What does it mean to you?
No,
How mean?
what is
My
it?
words. Sorry.
Everyone has been mean to me, especially you know who you are. Honestly, like this is my only music community I have at this point. So it means a lot to me. It's a big reason why I think I would still make music without it. I might quit DJing, to be honest, if I wasn't doing this, but I think I would still be producing and stuff. Maybe my style might change a bit. But this like this community gives me that. It gives me a lot of friends that it gives me the ability to, like I was saying earlier, like the nice thing about having like the larger scene is you can somewhat pick your friends. And this also somewhat gives me the ability to do that, ignoring geolocation. So I don't have to, I don't have to like, I'm not limited to whatever my friend choices are that are local, that are like, like I can actually meet. And like meeting people IRL is generally, I don't know, making a friend when you're an adult is like not as easy as when you're in school and you're seeing them all the time. But not being geo-locked to friends is like another huge thing for me. So I have some incredibly real connections that I have made with people through this platform, and that's great.
Well, I'm gonna ask, we're reaching the last few questions, but one I would like to know is, where did you get your name, Gravekeepr, and the avatar you're in, and what makes you keep on using it if it's a regular?
Okay. The name, so I was told that my last name meant Gravekeepr. I've dug into it a bit deeper, and I don't know if that's actually true. But I told some people this in like college, and they called me. So someone would be like, "Hey, Gravekeepr." The reason that it's misspelled, there's no E between the P and the R, is because I was DJing a party and I sent my friend he said, "What's your DJ name for the flyer?" And I was like, I hadn't thought of one at that point, so I was like, "Oh, I'll just do Gravekeepr." And I sent it to him, but I made a typo. And now I'm stuck with it.
Fair. What about...
And then...
the avatar, sorry.
Wait, what was the other question?
Oh, what about the avatar? And do you have a regular avatar like the one you're in now, and what makes you use it? This
is my regular avatar. Let me see if I don't have the original. Okay. I'm gonna bring out my very first VRChat avatar, and this is the first VRChat avatar I used when I was in VR.
Oh, hold on, I'll move the camera down. Oh, it's the armed goose.
It's the armed goose. So, I was the goose before Paul Manton. Fuck you, Paul. You stole my identity. But what really got me into the sheep avatar was actually me and Paul were fucking around, and we found a world with a bunch of these sheep avatars. So my favorite is, I'm gonna get into it now, and sorry, it's huge. Oh god.
You're in a taxi.
I am crazy taxi. Okay, I'm gonna get out of the weird avatars and go back. Okay, so basically we found a bunch of those sheep avatars in a world, and this is like when I was first getting into DDVR and like long before I started DJing. we were just fucking around, and Paul's like, I found these amazing Shiba avatars. We need to all get them and just start fucking with people. So we all got these Shiba avatars, and we were running around DVVR and like pretending to like sniff people. And I had the crazy taxi avatar, and we drove through the dance floor, and I almost got banned from DDVR for that. And but yeah, so then at some point I like picked one of them and just started using it more regularly because I found that the goose avatar, and I think I cycled through some other ones, was not very. I've noticed if you want people to talk to you in VRChat, you need to have a somewhat personable avatar. And good visemes I think is key, and the visemes on the Shiba are actually pretty fantastic. And just having like a face, like an actual something people can look at when they're talking, like, and the goose doesn't really have that. And then also like the Shiba itself is just kind of like silly and dumb, which a lot of what I do in this game is just fuck around. I would consider myself an ethical troll, but I needed something kind of silly to represent my personality, and like these just seemed to fit. So I cycled through a few of the publics until I had this custom one made.
Okay. Alrighty. And if anyone wishes to get into what you're doing, whether DJing, music production, or anything like that, what kinds of advice would you give someone new?
DJing would be practice. Don't try to play every event immediately. Don't like buy a DJ controller and be like, I've got the controller, book me. I played to my wall for like years before I started playing, like even like house parties and stuff. Like, have fun with it. Just go to that. Get music you like. Don't do that thing where you download like 2,000 techno tracks and you don't even know what they are. Like, actually dig and find things you like and play those out. And then when you're feeling good, I would say like start playing pop-ups, post your own pop-ups. Go to Shark Hut, tell your friends, hey, I'm doing a pop-up, people will come. There, you tell DJs there's a pop-up, they will show up. And talk to your friends who like run events and stuff, or organize your own and do small things like make it your own thing. Like, it should be fun. So just try to have fun with it. And like, if you want to play like bigger clubs and stuff, if you just like stick at it, keep doing that. DJ on Twitch, maybe record some mixes, put those up. Like, you'll get there. It's something, but it takes some time. And it's just like, honestly, like VRChat is really an amazing place to do that, because for me, when I was starting to get into DJing, it was incredibly gatekept. Like MIDI controllers weren't even common then, and I was like regularly shit on for mixing using software. Like, I've been using Traktor since like 2009. And people would be like, oh, I can't trust my laptop in the club. I've got to use CDJs. It's fine. It's all good. Just like have fun with it. Do your thing. Same thing with production. Like, just start doing it. Get out there. Like, download some basic sample packs. Pick a DAW. FL Studio has a really good free trial. Reaper is 100% free. And it's only $40 if you want to upgrade to the full. There's tons of fantastic software out there you can get for free. There's free sample packs you can get. And just start making music. And the most important advice I have for people learning production is, if someone tells you, like, this is the way you have to do something, they're full of shit and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, just do it. If it sounds good, it is good. There are very few rules in music production, and honestly, when you're starting, don't even worry about them. Just keep making tunes. Don't get caught up in like reading the forums and like watching all the tutorials and everything. Just like try to have a good time and like just have fun with it, and you will get better, and you'll eventually be able to make stuff more along the lines of what you like.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing that advice. And again, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure learning all about you, from what a shoutcast was to your entire journey. So thank you.
Thank you. Really love the podcast. Like, you do an amazing job. If anyone is watching this for me for some stupid reason, you should watch more of them for him, because he is a fantastic interviewer. And there are tons of amazing people with amazing stories that you never would have known if you didn't have someone pulling it out of them like that.
Well, thank you. It means quite a lot you say that. So very much thank you. Now, speaking of that, where can people find you if they wish to find you or any of your work?
If you would, if you want to see some grade A shitty trolling, I am on Twitter at grave_keepr, KEEPR. There is no E between the P and the R. SoundCloud/Gravekeepr, all one word, and Gravekeepr, all one word, .bandcamp.com. I have music up there. SoundCloud has a bunch of free bootlegs. All my music is free. You can download it. I'd pay what you want, but please don't feel obligated to pay anything for it. Though I do appreciate everyone who does. It's just not something that's necessary.
And as always, everything will be in the Hoobly What's It down that way. Right down there. Down that way. But with that said, time to do the thing. And you, audience member, we both know you have a project you've been putting off and ignoring. Turn off the phone and go do it. Don't give me shit. Go do it. Have a good one. See you in the metaverse, folks.